Welcome back, everyone. And today I have a special guest, my good friend for a very, very long time and business partner, if you will, Mr. Richard Advani of Bankers Invest. Welcome back, Richard. How are you?
Good. It's been a little while. Good to be back.
Yes, it's been a while. Richard is a very, very busy man. He's running his great products in Oklahoma. We'll talk about it later. But today we're gonna uh, update Richard's investment journey. As you recall, about a year ago or so, how time flies, Richard was kind enough to share a testimony about your real estate portfolio. You know, your portfolio is similar to what I'm trying to do. My network, we use a turnkey investment approach for my network, and similar with you, Richard, you use a very similar business model. So you and I, our business philosophy is pretty much very, very similar. So with that said, I want to share the audience, provide your uh, testimonial, if you will, because you are very authentic. You're very transparent in your journey because So with that in mind, the last interview we had a year ago, at that time you have approximately 20 rental properties. Most of them are single family homes. You have several short-term rentals. And then you create the risk portfolio in different markets over a period of time over the past 10 plus years. And when I ask you how many hours you spent per month in managing your vast real estate portfolio at that time, your 20 rental properties, you said approximately 2 hours per month. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's fast forward today. I know you have done a lot in the past 12 months. Share with the audience how many property you have, how many doors you have in from a very high level, no details necessary from a high level. How many property you have currently? How many property have you purchased in the past 12 to 18 months? What type of properties are they? What market? I mean, high level generic. And
Yeah. So, obviously the first thing to note is a lot of you guys know I've been in the lending business 20 years and focused on working with investors. So the biggest thing preventing investors from opening Pandora's box and investing is getting that first one and having the confidence, right? Being a lender on so many thousands and thousands of investment transactions, as you can imagine, my confidence level was inherent right away, right? I had access to data that no one else had. So everyone's like, oh my God, you've been investing in real estate for almost 20 years. It's amazing. I'm like, well, I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, right? It was what I focused my day job in, gave me access to data that made it very easy for me to have the confidence to invest. So, jumping to your point, though, I own properties all across the country. Obviously, I've become the Oklahoma market the last year. So, it's funny when you said the 20, I'm like, was it only 20? Because, I think I'm north of 35 properties now. So, it's been a very, very busy year. What's been exciting for me is I've started acquiring commercial properties now. I'm on my fourth one just in the last 4 months. Whole another world. I am going to start offering those opportunities to investors as we move into next year once I've built my own portfolio and made some mistakes. That way, of course, everyone else don't have to. But what's cool is even with the commercial properties, going from the 20 to 35, managing, bringing on more Airbnbs as well. It hasn't really increased the time investment from me just because I've had good systems and processes set up already, and adding on more to a well-established process, if it's done right, shouldn't necessarily add more time. What's been very exciting for me is besides business-wise building homes here and doing everything else what we're doing on the brokerage side with Bankers Invest. I've been continuing to, get very aggressive in scaling my portfolio, and it's cool because most of my time isn't spent towards managing my existing portfolio, it's spent towards searching for new deals, right? And searching for new opportunities, which is the way it's supposed to be, right? If you get overwhelmed, and I have some clients who say, they have 12, 15, 18 properties and, they just get overwhelmed. And I'm like, well, you're not doing it right then, right? You don't have the systems and processes. Because look, even if you buy new construction homes, which is primarily all I've bought in the last 15 years, it is very passive. But if you have 20, 30 properties, even though it's passive, right, you are going to have things that need to be done. You do need to file quarterly returns for your Airbnbs and staying on top of the accounting and stuff like that. What's been key for me and crucial for me is establishing a good team of virtual assistants, right? Full-time people based in the Philippines or in other countries that can help manage kind of that back end. And, if you are a business owner or you are a real estate investor and you're building a sizable portfolio, you can't afford not to have a personal assistant, right? That you're paying $150 to $200 a week to. The opportunity that saves you is huge. But yeah, it's amazing. I'm curious to see if things change from here, right? As I start to approach 50 properties, is that going to, is my system still going to be hold and held true, right? Or am I going to be running around with my head cut off? I'm pretty confident that my system is going to hold. And, a lot of it depends on the asset type you buy, right? We're all interested in cash flow. It's important to me as well. But I think the problem a lot of real estate investors make is they look at real estate. It's funny, I ask them, a lot of my clients, if they invest in stocks, and I was like, what kind of stocks? And like, well, I got tech stocks and I've got growth stocks and I've got bank stocks and I've got some travel, and they've got this whole strategy built around it, right? And of course, stocks are very multidimensional. The problem is most people look at real estate like this, just with one vision, and they look at it single dimensional, right? And like, well, I'm after cash flow. I'm like, okay, well, you're buying a property for 65,000 and it makes great cash flow, but you're comparing in that same bucket a brand new construction property, right? Which offers way lower risk level, way lower investment. And what we see often, and I've seen personally, which is why I've switched to new construction primarily, is when you do a 5-year look back, and I've done this, I've bought existing homes and I bought new construction at the same time period, right? And when I do the 5-year look back, what's interesting is the new construction did what they were supposed to do at a minimum, if not grew, right? And actually outperformed a lot of those existing homes. And that's what a lot of savvy investors, really grow to is, the new construction. Not many of us want another day job, right? We just want a good passive investment. Now, look, if you have time in your week and you don't mind getting more in the mix and managing more and buying higher cash flow existing properties, that's fine as well. Just knowing what you're buying, right? But if you aren't looking for that, and you are looking passive, you need to buy the right investment to meet your goals, not just your financial goals, and when this whole 1% rule, I think, is just a joke. Okay, I've heard it my whole career. And once again, talking about stocks again, how they're all multidimensional. Imagine if you bought stocks based off of some arbitrary rule, right? And we would all buy penny stocks. We wouldn't own tech stocks, right? Or we wouldn't own bank stock or any other type of stock because, imagine that's your investment philosophy, that getting this return guides the type of investment that you buy, and that's where people make the mistake, I think, on real estate is they're looking for that A and B class new construction experience in their head. That's what they're getting, but they're buying a C class home built in the 40s, and once again, don't get me wrong, there are a few providers nationally that do the turnkey right. It's not all a miss. There's a few of them that do. But as a whole, as an industry, look, no matter what you do to the home, even if you fix things that need to be fixed and put some lipstick on it, it's still a 60 or 70-year-old home, right? There's still 60 or 70-year-old wiring running through the walls and plumbing running through the walls. So it is a different experience.
Yeah, Richard, you're absolutely right. My core philosophy is similar. My own personal portfolio and the portfolio of hundreds of my investors over the years that I've consulted, I offer mainly, just like you, new construction, single family home in a growth market in boom towns, which we can talk about Oklahoma, your unique neck of the woods, boom town new construction. So yeah, I've done a lot of comparison with other people, all the real estate gurus out there promoting, you buy, you do burr strategy, you buy at a deep discount, then you fix it up, then you refinance, then you repeat burr strategy. Those burr strategies are overhyped out the window.
Well, but the thing too on that, you're dead right, but it's not even really a burr because these a lot of these companies capitalized on what a burr is, right? The burr, you take on the additional risk and you walk into additional equity, but that's when you're doing the burr. Most of these companies facilitate it for you, right? So they make a profit even on the burr, which defeats the whole purpose of the burr, which is you taking on additional risk and being rewarded for that additional risk, walking into 20-30% equity, right? But what happens is with the fees that a lot of these, burr companies charge, at the end of the day, you walk into 10 or 15% or 5% equity. And it's like, well, was that all worth it? But if you're going to go and set up a team there and you're going to, handle the contractors and you're going to do all that, burrs, it could be great. But what's funny is a lot of my clients that started off doing burrs now are selling those properties that they capped and burred themselves because they're still a little bit of a pain in the butt, and they want new construction stuff, more passive stuff.
Yeah, Richard, look, our new Bill's business model, you and I, you in Oklahoma, I'm in, my markets in Texas, Florida, and Oklahoma with you and in Alabama. But I do a lot of comparison. I look back, just like you, right? We've been doing it for a long time. I compare someone buying those C minus, C, B minus, C class old rental properties in the Midwest. I'm not here to, talk bad about other markets, but you buy those 50 to 100-year-old houses in the Midwest. I mean, I know the paper look good, cash look good. You might have even a successful burr, but if you look at 5 to 10 years down the road, you buy new construction. Your new construction is brand new. I mean, it's like the builders cover 1 year, 5 year, 10 year warranty. You get some high class tenant, and then it's almost hands off. It's like you do nothing because you get some great tenants, and you look at the capital capex, the expenditure over the next 5 to 10 years. A person buying this, old neighborhood, bad, slumlord neighborhood, over the past next 5 to 10 years, they have no idea what they can getting themselves into, and all the actual maintenance, upkeep, vacancies, and capex, it'll destroy their cash flow just like that. When one boiler breaks down, they have to pay extra $5,000. They destroy the cash flow for 2 years, whatever. But at the end of the day, you and I focus on brand new construction. We're not going to trade time for dollars. You're right. I mean, myself and you and a number of our respective investors that we work with, yeah, we own 5, 10, 15 properties. Hey, 1 to 2 hours per month managing those properties because we have a system. We delegate great property managers in which you have it. So we're not going to trade time for dollars. We can focus on time that are important to us. So we don't need to be a full-time investor. We can be a no-time, part-time investor. So getting back to your portfolio, Richard, I'm very excited to hear when you say commercial properties, you have done what type of commercial properties, and don't spill the beans. I know you're going to promote this, in the future, but what kind of commercial property have?
All kinds of stuff. So I've got an office building. I've got one strip mall. There's just five little businesses in it. I've bought a 4-bay commercial mechanic shop that's currently being rented out by a contractor for storage, but there is a plan to start an automotive shop there. In addition to that, I bought a building in downtown Chickasha. I'm in contract on, which is 4-bay, on the main strip commercial space with retail boutiques and stuff. And then I should be closing another week on two. They're worked. It's that new commercial type stuff, right? So it has a big shop door, but it also has an office in it and an upstairs kind of place as well. So I've got two of those in the Oklahoma City metro that actually make really good cash flow. What's been cool in the commercial space and exciting for me as opposed to residential is, number one, there's a lot of opportunities here to make great cash on cash return, right? 8 to 10% is not like this big a hard target to hit. So it's easy to hit. But in addition to that, commercial offers that additional kind of value play, right? If you add income, you increase value. So, there's opportunities to buy properties that, maybe need a little TLC. You could tenant occupy and make 10, 12% cash on cash return. And in addition to that, and I've been doing it, I'm about to close on my first one where, I bought it, put 100 grand into it, and occupied it, and now I'm going to pull all my money back out and still be cash flow positive. I'm working on that exit now on the loan, so that part's been really exciting for me. I'm excited to bring that to people once again as I enter next year, once I've um had more experience with it as well. As you know, with me, I don't put my name on something until I put my dollars in it first, right?
Okay. Okay, yeah, we'll discuss in the future. Looking forward to for you to receive those opportunities when you branch out for our investors. So, just to recap, your portfolio, 35 properties, most of them are long-term single-family homes in different markets, some in Florida, some in Buffalo, Niagara Falls, a lot of it in Oklahoma, a lot of it in Texas. Single-family home, several duplex and fourplex, mostly brand new construction. So you diversify geographically, and then you're diversifying in terms of asset class, right? Single family home, 1 to 4 units. Now you're venturing into commercial. So how are you get? I know I'm beyond 10 mortgages. You are investment loan expert. Uh, Furthermore, how are you able to finance this past year those properties, those commercials and stuff that you just talked about?
I mean, it's easy, right? With for the residential stuff that I bought in the last 12 months as well. DSCR loans are here. They have attractive rates, a lot of times better than conventional. That box that investors were put in up until 4 years ago. So, for basically the last 20 years of you hit the 10 cap and there were no options, or if there were options, they were predatory, right? It was a 3-year balloon, 5-year balloon, like the fact that you can get a 30-year fix with no income documentation on a cash flow break even or positive rental property with good credit and the down payment, and get as many of them as you want is exceptional. I mean, I don't think most investors realize we're like in the golden age right now for investors, right? It's what everyone's complained about for 15 years. Oh, we can't get more. We can't get more. If we could have bought more properties back in the day before they had this 10 limit, after the crash, oh my God, we would have. Well, we're back there. It's just everyone is still asleep at the wheel, and everyone's, and well, what's funny is, and then we saw it in COVID, and look, we'll see in the next 12 months, but there's a select group of investors, myself included, that are being greedy when others are fearful, right? And that saying goes, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. And most people haven't been investing right now because of the fear of what's going to happen in the market. The cash flow is not as high as they're used to. Well, guess what? Those of us that have been, right? Number one, we're getting crazy good deals, right? Number two is we actually have tons of inventory, whereas just 2 years ago, it was taking 10 months to get in line to buy a rental property, right? So
Right.
we have access to all this inventory and rates are going to drop, right? And demand's going to peak, and all that cash flow that everyone's missing right now to pull the trigger. Well, you're going to refinance and get all that cash flow, except you have all those other benefits, right? Of the appreciation that's happened, and actually having your pick of inventory. So, I'm very confident that whoever is still out there making investments are going to fare well. And the market's contracting this year. Yeah, it is like 1% in most markets, right? That's not a big deal to any of us that are buying rentals. We're buying for the medium and the long term. So I think right now is a great buying opportunity, which is why I've been so aggressive in the last 12 months. And the other thing people need to keep in mind, and no one talks about this, Because look, cash flow is the most important thing, of course. I get it. But the purchase price to rent ratio is the highest it's ever been in almost any market across the country, right? Which changes the rates have changed. Like if we would have had the same purchase price to rent ratio right now, right? Buying something for 250, renting at 1700 is pretty common in most markets right now. But rates are high. There's not that much cash flow. But if we would have had that at 4.5% rates, we all would have been paying 8 to 10% cash on cash return, right? I don't think people realize that, right? And I'm not saying we're going back to 3.5 and 4% rates, but if you're buying something today at a 1.5, 2% cash on cash return, and rates drop from where you were at 7.1, they're already in the mid to high sixes now, but let's say they drop to 6.1, 6%, right? That cash on cash return was two. Now all of a sudden it's like 4.5, right? You're back in the money. But now you're not fighting the masses to go buy the property. You already have it and you're refining. So
You
that's my
know,
take.
Richard, what you just said is so factually true. So the number, the logic, the facts are true. But you and I also agree that in the past 2 or 3 years, the mortgage rate has increased drastically from 3% to 7% for the past 2 years. More, you and I experience more rookie and so-called experienced investors in the past 2 years continue to sit on the sidelines more than ever before that you and I ever experienced in the past 20 years that you and I have been in business. It's very sad. People continue to sit on the sidelines knowing what you just said, right?
You know what's been interesting for me is the people who've been sitting on the sidelines, which is most of the people we've been working with the last 7 to 8 years, are the people that have been acquiring the last 7 or 8 years. The people that have owned real estate for 12, 15 years plus, they're the ones who have still been buying,
Yeah,
right? Because they see this,
you're
it
right.
still goes up, but they see this and they're still growing their portfolio. They're still acquiring. They see the opportunity, obviously, that I see in it. And the people who've just experienced the crazy heyday, right, are still holding on like, oh, well, I was buying properties at, and this was the rate, and this was the rate. Well, those days are gone, right, for the moment. And that's not a reason to pause or stop real estate acquisitions because, like I said, there's opportunity. What hasn't changed is the national shortage on homes right now. Maybe not in Florida and Texas at the moment because they're hitting affordability caps and with where rates are, but there is a national shortage, more importantly, of affordable housing,
Yep.
right? And that's what I focus on. I don't want to buy the stuff necessarily that I'd live in, although a lot of the properties I own are in A and B markets. But you want to buy stuff that is still affordable range of that neighborhood, right? We're delivering new construction homes in Edmond at 320, which is the best school district and A+ market. The closest competitor is delivering them at like 430, 440, right?
Yep.
So we're still affordable range of that A market. And that's what we focus on as a company. And that's what I focus on as an investor personally.
Yep. Agree. You and I have the same philosophy, same business model. On the next module, we can talk about your product. So, just to recap on today's presentation, to recap is what you have done. Yes, you've been investing for a long time, but if you can do it, if you can scale your portfolio over the years, you have to start somewhere. When you start with your first rental, right? You got to get in the door, get your first rental, then slowly, ramp up. So, so, so over the past, 10 plus years, you have accumulated 35, at least 35 rentals and more doors. Some of your rentals have more than one door, one unit. So, so again, you only spend a couple hours per month. I could be wrong because you have a system in place, because we delegate, we outsource, we delegate to a great professional managers to handle all the dirty work for us, which is fine. So, so you could retire right now if you want to. No, but you are, of course not. You are building a multi-million-dollar business as we speak. I don't want to divulge your specific goals, but what are some of the message you have for the people audience out there who are listening to us? We are using contrarian approach. And when most people are fearful, we buy. That's why Warren Buffett says, when everybody's fearful, that's when then you need to be greedy in a good way. So what's your message to those people out there that are still sitting on the sidelines? Yeah, so what's your overall core message?
Well, what I'll tell you is think of Monopoly, right? When you're playing Monopoly, it's the most boring game you've ever played, right? For about the first 30 minutes until everyone starts buying more and more property. And you start putting some hotels on, then you start making trades and business deals. And then people are yelling and screaming and jumping across the damn table, right? Because it becomes fun, it becomes exciting. And a lot of people ask me, like, whoa, I'm surprised you don't have exotic cars and you don't have this. And I'm like, look, and don't you want to enjoy your life at some point, right? And I'm like, I think what you guys are missing is it becomes very fun and exciting once you open that Pandora's box and get the first one, right? And everything becomes about trying to acquire more properties. And I love real estate personally, and when I kind of give the Monopoly example, I think a lot of people get it. They're like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And we're playing Monopoly in real life, but more importantly, we're providing housing to people, right? We're solving a problem that exists in this country right now, which is good, affordable housing. And in a lot of markets that we work in Oklahoma, I mean, the housing provided to people, I mean, they're slumlords. They give crap housing. They don't have ACs. They have problems. They're not managed well, right? So going into a lot of these areas, yes, there's a great opportunity for us as investors, but bringing in brand new construction, well maintained properties is, you are doing a service to the community, and that's why there's tax benefits associated with being a real estate investor, right? Is because it's a need, right? There's a big need, and the government's trying to incentivize private industry to come in and fill that void because they can't do it on their own, right? And that's why tax incentives towards certain industries exist. Is the government's asking for help from the private industry, the public, the private sector to come in and help fill those voids. So, if you pay attention to broad level messages, is, the federal government thinks real estate investing is a great idea. So much so they're incentivizing us to do it. Right. So, there's plenty of good reasons to do it. I think the biggest is, if you have money just sitting in a savings account, losing, 6, 8, 10% a year to inflation, you could be putting it to work. And, there's a lot of good markets out there where, under 40 grand like ours, you can come in and buy a brand new home as an investor and make good cash flow and, start letting that grow to bear fruits in the future.
Richard, here's my recap. Rental property is one of the most historically proven real estate asset class in the world. It's the most tax favored asset class. There is a multi-dimensional. You get cash flow, increasing rents, you get great tax benefit, cost segregation, plus 100% bonus depreciation. We can talk about that on other future modules. You get long-term appreciation. You get loan amortization. Your tenant gonna pay down your loan for you. Your tenants, and there are 5 dimensional. That is the beauty of owning rental property especially 1 to 4 unit, and using a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. This is the holy grail, the way you and I have been practicing over all these years, and buy for the long term. It is at least a 10-year journey. It's a boring investment like Monopoly, like you said, but boring is good because you are the turtle, and other people, get overwhelmed, mesmerized by the real estate fake gurus out there, or promoting, a get rich quick scheme using, fix and flip, using BRRRR strategy, BRRR, buy those crappy properties in the Midwest. Hate to criticize the Midwest, but yeah, 100-year-old properties on paper, great cash flow, but they don't realize what they're getting themselves into over the next 5 to 10 years. All the capital expenditure kind of eat up their so-called paper cash flow, and those markets have very little appreciation, this and that. But anyway, that's my recap. Thank you so much, Richard. If you have nothing else to say, you gave just a great, powerful testimonial. So we'll just come back to do another module in Oklahoma. Thank you so much, Richard, for for presenting. Very inspirational. Once again, very powerful, very factual, very true. So thank you so much. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'll click the next link and